question for you: what is your setup at home and stuff like that? Because I know you work from home a lot.
Oh yeah, I have 2 studios at home.
Gotcha. Wow. What is like your setup for the most part? Like as far as your interface and preamps, like what kind of like setup do you have?
So I have my Studio A is a Avid Matrix Studio.
Okay.
And then I also have an Apollo Twin in there, and we network the 2 studios together via Ethernet, I think.
Okay, Dante. Okay.
Definitely Dante.
Gotcha.
And yeah, everything's Dante.
Right.
We have one of those dad mom controller things.
Wow. Okay.
So so that's our main switcher. In front of me, when I sold my console like last year, so I could afford Atmos speakers. And
which console did you have?
The AWS 900 Plus SSL,
nice.
which
SSL.
I fucking love.
Yeah.
And man, that was the best console ever. But
right.
you can't really mix Atmos on it, and I needed the money, so
right. So
had
you
to
had to just do that because I know it's a hybrid board, right? So it interfaces with
flick of the switch, and you're controlling the Pro Tools faders and pans. Flick of the switch, and you're on analog.
Right.
Wow.
And
Gotcha.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
So my transfer over, I switched to the SSL UF8s with a UC1.
Gotcha.
And that, I gotta say, SSL solved it at least for analog guys like me who have done their entire life in front of a fucking huge console.
Right. Yeah.
And the controllers feel like SSL faders.
Right.
And the EQ is the SSL EQ layout. So it's all muscle memory.
Right.
So, for me working on a console, you never look at what you're doing because you always know where your fingers are, just like driving a car or playing guitar.
Right.
So, so I found that when they put the compressor in the right place and the EQ in the right place, I could just get back to focusing on the music. That's the best thing about working on a console as opposed to a DAW is a DAW naturally focuses your attention onto the screen. Whereas a console, you don't need to look at the screen until you need to look at the screen.
Yeah.
So it allows you, in my opinion, to connect to the music coming out of the speakers much better because you're less mixing with your eyes than your ears and your heart. Right. The way that the SSL controllers work now, you can lay out a digital console. You put a channel strip across everything, and you lay it out in the console, and then it comes up as a digital board in the box.
Right.
So you can work without ever touching a mouse if you want, or you can work with the mouse or the controllers. You have all these choices, and it just feels natural.
Wow.
And this debate about analog and digital, there is no difference anymore. The only difference is how you capture the original signal. So I'm a big proponent of a great mic chain.
Got you.
And that's where the analog shit really comes in for me.
Got you.
But the result can be exactly the same on analog and digital. And the only difference is the tactile experience of how you get there. So what decisions you make because of what gear you're using and your comfort level with it and your creativity level with it. That's the most important thing about choosing your gear is, it's great to have incredibly great pieces of gear. And again, I highly recommend a great vocal chain.
Right.
But everything else is to your taste.
Right.
If it makes you feel more creative, if it super speeds up your workflow, or if it makes you money, that's a good investment. But if it's not 2 of those 3, then probably not.
Then it doesn't matter.
You said just a great vocal chain. You repeatedly said that. So I want to know, there's such a thin line between, especially with the budgets now, that a lot of mics are amazing. But what would be, I guess, the super chain to you?
Well, I built my super chain over time, just replacing stuff as I find better stuff. And now it's been my C800G. I've had since the late 90s. It's immaculate.
Wow. Okay.
Nobody has ever sounded less than stellar on that mic.
Right.
Into a Groove Tubes Viper mic pre with 8 tubes, and then into a Thermionic Culture, the Phoenix Varimu compressor with a bunch more tubes, and then into a hardware Cush Clariphonic, and then into converters.
Gotcha. What converters are you using?
The Matrix Studio.
Gotcha. You got the Matrix.